Alright, there's a ton going on right now, and I know a ton of coverage and videos are coming out on this phone today, so I want to start things off with a little bit of gratitude. For all of you who clicked on my face or clicked on my video and came to hang out with me today, honestly, thank you. I really appreciate all of you, so now let's get into the video. Motorola looks to flip the script on foldable smartphones with an evolution on the formula that we've been waiting for, essentially making a 2-in-1 smartphone that is actually pretty damn exciting. Let's just get right into it. It's Joshua Vergara, what's going on everybody, and this is a first look at the Moto Razr Plus. Now, it's not like the nostalgia of the Razr hasn't already been refreshed and updated for the smartphone era, but to call the previous iterations a success might be a little bit of a stretch. That's why the new Razr Plus feels like a pretty radical move by Motorola to really shake things up. You can see it already, the biggest cover screen we've seen thus far on a flip smartphone. I'll get to that in a minute because we do have to talk about the form factor at large first. And that's because Moto manages to tick pretty much all the right boxes first before getting crazy with the external display. The folded smartphone is done right, with virtually no opening in the middle when the phone is closed. Everything is where we would expect it to be, with the power button and volume rockers on the side of the top half that has the cover display. When opened up, the crease in the 6.9-inch Full HD Plus P OLED display is barely perceptible, but there is definitely one there. And when opened up, the phone feels just like any other smartphone, with a screen that is tall and somewhat narrow. And the strong feeling hinge on the Razr Plus ensures that you can flex the screen to comfortable angles for viewing content and anything else on a table, but that might not be totally necessary anymore with this particular foldable. Again, we'll get to that cover screen in a second. One thing I will say right now is that the rather iconic Razr chin is officially gone now, as Moto is hoping this phone's calling card will no longer be a chin, but a full-on cover screen. Personally, I'm just fine with that trade-off. And as far as the material choices are concerned, only the Viva Magenta gets this vegan leather bottom right here, and this is only available on Motorola.com and over at T-Mobile. After all, this really harkens back to those hot pink Razrs of old. The rest of the specs are high-end, even if they're not the latest and greatest. Moto outfits the Razr Plus with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. That being said, it should be plenty for making apps move along swimmingly, in and out. Other specs include the 8GB of RAM and 256GB of onboard storage, which is not really at the highest end of the premium smartphone market, but it should be more than enough for most general users. And finally, Moto manages to stuff a 3800 mAh battery in the Razr Plus, which I'm interested in testing out for daily longevity. By the way, that battery can be charged at 30 watts wired and 5 watt via wireless. Moto's DNA is throughout the software with their various gestures like the chop chop, which can be done with the phone open or closed, and the smartphone experience can be easily expanded to larger screens and even laptops via Moto's own Ready 4, which is a pretty great feature to have. Everything felt quite smooth performance-wise, and that is helped along by the main display, which also sports a 165Hz refresh rate. I personally have no doubts that even higher-end games like Honkai Star Rail will run just fine on here, and daily usage will be supported just fine. The screen also looks pretty good with nice colors, and media consumption on it should be plenty enjoyable. But you know what's even more fun? Putting that YouTube video on the outer display. Maybe I'm a tiny bit biased because it's my video playing on here, but I just love that you can watch an entire YouTube video pretty comfortably on this external display. That's right, the 3.6-inch P OLED external display of the Moto Razr Plus is capable of running full applications, capable really of doing way more than pretty much any other foldable's outer display so far. Moto outfits a full touchscreen on here with a UI that is complete with its own customizable clock lock screen that you have to swipe up on to get past, and then home screens that hold a number of different functions. There are widgets for quick access to certain information, even some games for enjoyment without opening the phone, and then shortcuts to full applications. Now, I found that not every single app is available in that edit menu that creates those particular shortcuts, but a surprising selection of them were still there, like TikTok and Instagram. And while the real estate on the outer display might be a little cramped compared to the main display, the fact that you can still get key functions like having a full keyboard for replying to messages and emails feels pretty insane. And the fact that the cameras are there doesn't quite get in the way either. Apps can be rendered fully on the display through the line of cameras, but then you You can also have them end just above the cameras by long pressing on the navigation bar on the bottom, which is good to know in case some buttons are along the bottom of any given app and thus you can't really press them where those cameras are. Now, I did find that some functions are a bit tough to get done effectively on the outer display, but I'm actually willing to give the Razr Plus a pass on those. After all, we can't really expect literally everything to work just fine on a smaller, more squared off display compared to the norm. And at least any app that is open on the outer display blows up nicely and seamlessly when opening up the phone. To go the other way, the Razr Plus gives you a prompt in the little icon dock on the bottom of the outer display. Just close the phone and then tap that button if you want to continue on the cover. Just the fact that the Razr Plus manages to do as much as it does here makes it feel really unique in a relatively young but increasingly crowded flip phone market. Alright, I just threw a bunch of information at you just now, so why don't we go ahead and take a short breather with this bit of a tea break. The tea I'm drinking right now was actually at the Moto Razr Plus briefing, and it's a bag of genmaicha, which is a green tea mixed with roasted rice, so you get a little bit of extra flavor on there with the green tea. And because I got the tea during that briefing, and because we're talking about the extra functionality of the Moto Razr Plus, maybe today's little reminder is remember to be resourceful. Especially as a content creator on the go, I have to remember that I have a lot of tools at my disposal, and that way I will be able to get everything I need done no matter where I am. That's one of the joys of being what they usually call a digital nomad, but it can apply to pretty much any other profession or lifestyle or scenario in any of your lives. It's something I always say to creators who are just getting started or just looking for a little bit of advice. I always say, know your machine. When it comes to, let's say, cameras or really anything that we might use in our daily lives, really getting to know it inside and out is going to be really beneficial in case you need to use certain capabilities that otherwise you may not have realized were there. Like with the Moto Razr Plus, we're going to have a lot of new capabilities just because of that covered display. So it would be really fun to just explore that and to know what scenarios will work best with both the outer and of course the inner display. So that would be the reminder that I have for everybody at this tea break. I'm right here in a hotel room actually trying to get this video done using the tools that I have and making sure that I am resourceful to ensure that I get this video out for all of you to enjoy. So the reminder is, make sure to be resourceful. What is a scenario that you have had to go through where you had to be resourceful or a little creative to get what you needed done? Let me know in the comment sections down below, and I hope you enjoyed this little tea break because I hope you come for the tech, but you stay for the tea. Alright, that short breather is done. Let's go ahead and get back into the video. Of course, we can't forget about the cameras. Moto was really pushing for the younger generation user, and that includes those that create content. That said, the cameras are in line with what you might expect from a flip smartphone. After all, there's only enough room on a phone with this big of a cover display to fit enough cameras, let alone big enough sensors. So what we get is a 12 megapixel main camera, a 13 megapixel ultrawide that doubles as a macro, and then the front-facing or inner display camera is a 32 megapixel shooter. All of the cameras shoot 4K video, which is nice to see, with the inner display camera managing a little bit more capability. One thing that Moto wanted to make sure to make a big deal about is that the front-facing camera, a 32 megapixel shooter, is capable of 4K video at 60 frames per second. Not necessarily something you see in even some premium candy bar-like phones, but on a foldable like this, front-facing camera is actually getting a little bit of love. Really do appreciate that. Of course, if you really need to though, you can use those rear sensors in order to get your videos and photos done. Moto has managed to evolve their picture-taking capabilities in recent releases, which has been great to see, but we'll see how video fares in a future camera test. I even tried the camcorder grip on this foldable, and we'll see if I keep that up in the future. Now, the camera app has all of the modes that Moto tends to highlight, including the color pop and their own version of portrait video. But a new addition this time around is the photo booth, which takes 4 photos in succession on a timer, giving you time to change up the poses for each one. It's like Vergara, but miniaturized. You'll have to get into the photo editor yourself to mess around with the resulting pictures though. Like with most flip smartphones, it's fun to use the external cameras coupled with the outer display, and honestly, it's as great as ever on the Moto Razr Plus. It's easy enough to do Moto's own patented twist motion in order to open up the camera via the outer display and then just shoot things that way. But then you can also open the camera on the main screen and then hit the cover display preview. This is on the ultra-wide camera right now, so I am using this basically to vlog, and with this really great weather right now in Brooklyn, New York, I'm getting what looks to be a pretty good video. In either scenario, you have access to all of the key features like video resolution and aspect ratio, which already makes this probably my favorite flip camera phone experience so far. Again, let me know what kind of content you want to see from and of the Moto Razr Plus in the comments, and subscribe to my channel so you know when it comes out. Really, after a couple of hours with the Moto Razr Plus, I find myself wanting more, and that says a lot. Foldables remain fun and interesting, don't get me wrong, but I have to give Moto props for finding a way of making the Razr Plus feel kind of new. It'll be interesting to adjust to whatever apps and experiences work well on that outer display, making it so that I might not even need to open up the phone all the time. And for that unique usability, Moto is trying their best to put the Razr Plus back in the hands of every nostalgic and new user alike with the price of $999. Pre-orders will start on June 16th, and then the full retail release is happening a week later. And then that vegan leather version of the Viva Magenta colorway, that is going to be exclusive to T-Mobile and Motorola.com. But guess what? It doesn't end there, because there's another Razr, one that Moto hopes new users will be willing to adopt at a lower price point with a few key compromises. This one's dubbed the Razr, without the Plus, and you can already see that it doesn't sport the larger cover display and instead has a display bar like we've seen done in the past. Instead of glass all around, the Razr sports that vegan leather all around its body. And the specs are dialed back a bit further with the Snapdragon 7 Gen 1. There's a very similar POLED display that this time rocks a 144Hz refresh rate, 8GB of RAM, and this time 128GB of storage. Given that the lack of a large outer display frees up a little bit more room for the internals, the Razr will sport a larger 4200 mAh battery and a 64-megapixel main camera. The regular Razr, we might call it, also comes in a few of its own colors, with that sage green being the one that I wish made it over to the Razr Plus, personally. Now, while availability of the regular Razr hasn't been shared yet, we're told that it will be a significantly more affordable option for those that just want a more pocketable smartphone, but don't need all the bells and whistles that were put into the Razr Plus. Motorola is hitting 2023 strong with the return of the Razr in 2 different flavors, and it's great to see that they're doing their best to hit all the right marks while pushing the envelope in key ways, including even the prices. So it's time for all of you to sound off. Are you going to be picking up the Razr Plus? Are you hyped for the largest covered display we've seen on a flip smartphone thus far? Personally, I'm really excited to get going on the Razr Plus and to put it through its paces, so let me know how you're feeling in the comments down below. But from there, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for kicking it with me today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.